And maybe the third time's the charm. Welcome to Graps TV and the Sicko Show. I'm your host, the Matty Man. Hey, we got 3 viewers waiting already. This is awesome. Thank you. So, for everybody out there today, we've had a busy week. If you are an AEW fan, and I do realize that my plates are still set up for Rampage when I did my Rampage review. And you know what? It's okay. I'm just glad that the stream is up and running right now. And going to cover something here a little bit ahead of time to see if our audience thinks that this is totally okay. Someone who shall not be mentioned, who is also a podcaster from New York, this week went on a racist tirade. And I'm not sure whether he thought he could get away with it, or he didn't realize he was streaming, or he didn't realize somebody had captured his video. Ooh, wow, this is going up good. Thank you. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. So, just doing like I normally do when something like that happens. I put it out there, and, some people were saying, maybe we should cut him a break or whatever. So he was cutting a live stream the other day, and I went right under there, and I said, you know what, are we going to get an apology for that? Because I got to presume a lot of things. I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt except for a few. But I'm still trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. So I was like, hey, are you going to drop an apology, something, anything, just something. Just say, acknowledge it at least. Because to whom much is given, much is expected. And that's the way I've always lived my life. And, like I said, the viewership's going up too. Wow, thank you. Thank you. This is very awesome. So I went under there and I said, hey, are we going to get an apology for that racist rant you dropped the other day? And the response to me from him was, fuck you, that's your apology. So if that's my apology, then you're blocked. I don't even find comedic value in someone who thinks like that. I don't. And it kind of pains me a little bit because everybody puts on a little bit of a face for everybody else. This is one thing that I don't put a face on for. It's the way I've always been. It's the way my mom raised me. And I say my mom because she was very instrumental in the formation of my mentality, how I treat people and how I expect people to treat me. So, JD, if that's your response, then fuck you too. That's the bottom line. If that's the way you're going to talk about other ethnicities, then, you need to be deplatformed, and that's the end of it. So, we did everything in the world to give you a way out. When it was called out, we give you everything in the world to give yourself a way out. You chose that, so I'm choosing this. That's the way it is. You don't like it, fuck you too. And so now we've got all the stupid stuff out of the way. Let's get into the news. The news is a lot this week. Unless you've been living under a rock, which I doubt anybody has, we're getting some breadcrumbs now about the TV deal. We know that the TV deal is finalized. We do not have a formal announcement yet. For all the people who need a formal announcement, you may very well have to break down and watch the product. I know that's going to kill you. I looked at a guy the other day, and I'm not going to call him out by name, but his headline said, I would rather be waterboarded than watch AEW wrestling. And then he proceeds to pontificate on all the stars for the matches that Dave Meltzer gave out, which is the other part of the news. Meltzer issued his stars this year, or this for All Out pay-per-view. And the only one not to get 4 stars and higher was Mercedes Moné, and I personally have a problem with that one because that one had really a lot more to do with match placement, and there were some frustrations in there. But, it's Meltzer. Meltzer's going to do what Meltzer does. Between the TV deal, Meltzer stars, and everything else, if I wanted to do a red light tonight, it would probably be simple and easy. Above and beyond everything else, Will Ospreay got his 50 millionth 5-star match out of it. And Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland got 4.5. And the Bryan Danielson with Jack Perry picked up 4.75, which incidentally is a quarter star higher than what Dave Meltzer gave Gunther and Randy Orton. So there was a lot of backlash out there this week. It's been really good if you're an AEW fan because the meltdown is absolutely real. I'm pretty sure next week we're going to get the formal announcement on what the TV deal actually is. Everything that we'll get a formal announcement of the deal. Now, ferreting out what's in the deal is probably going to take a week or so. And I say that respectfully because there's a lot of fine print. There's a lot of little print in here. Hey, we're at 11 viewers now. Thank you. Come on, work. Stream crashed on me twice when I was trying to go up. And I was like, if it crashes a third time, we'll just do it tomorrow. But hey, we're up and running. We're about 8 minutes into this thing. And you know what that means? It means it's Saturday night and it's time for your AEW Collision report. But this week, normally I would just do Collision and SmackDown. For those people who were following yesterday and the day before that, we're having some issues. I'm switching over providers and so on and so forth. And USA was not included in my package, so we're trying to figure out a provider that's reasonable, that has just what I want to watch. And I know that's like finding a needle in a haystack, but I'm good at looking for needles, trust me. And that came out totally wrong, but it's funny. But I'm just saying, finding the right stuff in this day and age, especially with the economy the way it is not easy to find good television anymore. And, everything's so damn expensive, it ain't even funny. But I'm not getting off on that rant at all. I'm just happy I've got all the AEW stuff. Plus, I have picked up TNA and New Japan Pro Wrestling, so they are probably going to be added into my show. I'll have some stuff for WWE next week. I just have to go through it and so on and so forth. But most of you are used to hearing your SmackDown, Rampage, and Collision review. So we're doing Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision. Now, I know Dynamite's been reviewed to hell and back by now, but I haven't put my 2 cents in. What we got coming out of All Out was an absolute masterpiece. All Out itself was a masterpiece. It really was. If you haven't seen it yet, go back and watch it. It was definitely worth your time. Now, I will say there are some moments that apparently may make some people squeamish, but, hey, it's AEW. I really wish they'd have said where the big boys play, but, I guess that thing would probably send Eric Bischoff off into outer space with rants and so on and so forth. But, it really is. It's not only where the best wrestle, it's where apparently the grown-ups enjoy wrestling. And that would be one really, really fun little moniker to throw out there just to, I don't know, just kind of poke fun at or what have you. But that's just me. If I was going to troll somebody and everybody's like, Tony's trolling. No, if I were going to troll somebody, I would have said we're the best wrestle and we're the adults watch wrestling. Because apparently we can't watch what we want to watch anymore. Now we've got to do that, this, that, and a third, and everything else. But that's a totally different stream for a totally different night. How is everybody doing? Throw a chat out there. Do something, man. Come on. A little bit of engagement makes the stream go better. I promise it does. But I'm just going to hit the highlights of Dynamite and Rampage because we have a lot to unpack just even out of what I considered to be Out of this week, Collision was probably one of the most chill shows in wrestling all week long. And I realized that SmackDown had something to do yesterday when they moved over to USA. And I get it. I get it. When you get on the new network, you've got to put your best foot forward. You got to throw everything out that you got. And they did that. I did watch bits and pieces on X that concerned the cage match because everybody wanted you to see that, hey, we do cage matches too. And once again, it was a cage match. That's the best I could say. It was a cage match. But I got to give them credit. They're at least trying to put forth a comparable brand to make sure that you still know that they can do certain things. That cage was really short, too, by the way. I mean, I don't think Cody Rhodes could have done what he did with that the flying thing off the top of the cage if it had been an AEW cage, because AEW cage probably about 8 feet taller. We know that, you know that, but I'm not poking. I'm not gonna nitpick. It was an okay cage match. I think it advanced the storyline and it brought Roman back into the picture, and it set up for the Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. And what I really think is that I don't know. Somebody said on Twitter today, and I totally agreed with it. And because it was along the lines of what I was thinking, I think they realized they had their 5 matches booked, or they had 4 matches booked. And if they wanted to get Cody and Roman in on the card, that was the only way to pull it off. It really looked like that's what they were putting together at the end of during the show, part of the show. Now, I got to say, when Cody did the whole I'm not doing it thing, I thought to myself, wow, WWE's going to nerf everybody again. And for the most part, I was right still. I was right from a standpoint that they're teasing a lot of things that they see on the internet. I just don't think they're going to give them to you. Now, that's not to say that Triple H is lying when he says he watches X and watches and sees what they say and sees what you say and all that. I'm not disagreeing with that. I believe that he does that because you could actually play around on X and book that show. That show was not very complicated. Basically, he's telling you he puts more time into looking at the internet than he does booking the show. And right now, even with all the glitz, all the glamour, even with Megan Thee Stallion singing everybody in, which was kind of weird, I saw a little bit of backlash on that as well. And I'm going to chime in there with that because Mr. Starks on The Covalent TV brought up a very important point last night when he said that the music, when you were going into it, they said, okay, we're going to open up with a steel cage match. You got a blood feud. You got all that stuff going on at one time, and we're opening up with a Bebop Megan the Stallion. I'm with everybody else. I think that's going to be around for a couple of months and probably going to take a nosedive, and they're going to change up the music on that because it doesn't really give you that big fight feel walking in, especially if they're starting off the show with a big fight, which the cage match was them just basically shooting for the moon to open the show up to pull as many viewers in. Now, we don't have the WrestleOmics views yet, but I mean, they're going to do 1.5, 1.6. If they do anything under than 1.4, it probably was a failure. Everything they did probably was a failure. But it wasn't by their own design. They put out the best show that they're capable of putting out. Given the current climate, the WWE show was as good as it could be. Because there's not any improvement. They're not really showing any signs of wanting to improve it. Because everybody is still like, they mark out in places they shouldn't and so on and so forth. But that's neither here nor there. One of the main reasons I'm not covering it right now is because I really, really, really want to give you a fan perspective on that show when I can't give you if I can't give you an analytical view of the show, I just don't want to watch it. or I don't want to cover it. It's not that I'm not watching it. It's not that I don't appreciate it. It's not that I don't enjoy it. It's just I'm not going to cover it. I'm not going to stand there and talk about a particularly bad outing like it was great just because people like it. That's just not how I'm built. That's how I'm never going to be built. So with that said, uh what else has gone on this week? Trying to think. Oh yeah, MLP added some more matches in there. I haven't got the full card yet, but if you have not bought that yet, if you have not gone on to Triller and put your $29.99 down on that show, you're leaving money on the table mentally. If you are a professional wrestling fan, Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling has one hellacious show sitting up in Triller right now. $29.99 for a 2-night extravaganza. Kanoshka is going to be on there both nights. Takeshita. I will get that name right before the end of the year, I promise. He's working 2 nights. He's working both nights, and a couple of the other ones are working both nights. You've got the X Division champion. You've got all kinds of titles in there. It's for $30, you can't beat it. Probably going to have a minimum of 20 matches. So that's my cheap plug for Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. But let's talk about Dynamite. Just a minute. A lot of stuff I want to get off my chest about Dynamite. Number one, Moxley's doing some of the best work that I have ever seen him do. Jon Moxley is doing the damn thing. And he's also showing the Elite that if they had ran that segment correctly before Double or Nothing, this is where we would have landed. With that said, it does appear from the outside looking in that Moxley is trying to show everybody how to do the takeover angle. Obviously, we still have Danielson off television, which is where he should be. After that attack at All Out, Bryan Danielson shouldn't be anywhere near a television. He shouldn't be anywhere near commentary. He should be absolutely devastated. And the way that Jon Moxley and crew are going through the AEW divisions randomly is how the takeover angle should have worked. Now, I know that we've got a lot of Young Bucks fans and all that, and I know we've got a lot of Elite fans, and I am right there with you. I mean, they're not doing bad work, they're not doing phenomenal work, but they are doing good work. And as long as you're doing good work and not bad work, I'm good with it. Shout out to 13. So with that said, Moxley is literally showing us how this should have been done before Double or Nothing. I have no problems with saying that. I stand on that. But we were live from the Rupp Arena, and we started off with a segment of Jack Perry versus, wait a minute, what am I looking at here? Yeah, Jack Perry and Lio Rush. That match was off the card. Off the chain, I'm sorry. That match was off the chain. Lio Rush belongs. Now, of course, Jack Perry picked up the pinfall. We know this. Like I said, all these matches have been reviewed to hell and back. I'm just throwing in some of my own 2 cents on this because Dynamite was just that good. And my buddies cover it right away. And then right after that, 16 other people cover it. So I don't try to get into that fight just yet because we're not there. But when we get there, I'll be right in the middle of it, dropping my own dimes. But at the same time, Lio Rush absolutely belongs on television. Lio Rush absolutely belongs in an AEW ring. And with his attitude and his demeanor, Lio Rush actually belongs as the leader of the junior heavyweight division. Now, say what you want. I know Leo's had a checkered past, and I get that. A lot of really good, complex wrestlers have checkered pasts because they're that good, they're that complex, and the business is that hard. Imagine competing for your job every single day that you go in, as opposed to most 9-to-5ers. You have a position, you go in, you sit at your desk, you do your job, you get up and you go home. Not only are you competing for your job on a day-to-day basis, but almost on an hour-to-hour basis, because wrestling has become, what have you done for me lately? It's not what have you done for us overall, it's what have you done for me lately. So shout out to Lio Rush for putting on a damn good match. Him and Jack Perry need to run that one back at least 5 or 6 times. I'm kidding. At least one more time. Because it was just that good. Of course, Jack Perry picked up the win and so on and so forth. We had Sammy Guevara and Ricochet, which was another match that I wanted to cover out of this, because Ricochet made his Dynamite debut. Or it could be, I think it was his Dynamite debut. I could be wrong. He had a little bit of ring rust. Sammy Guevara managed to pull off his stuff pretty daggum well. But as far as other people that were complaining about Ricochet, for those people that were complaining about Ricochet, I think he looked pretty damn good. And he was still a human highlight reel on that thing. Ricochet did pick up the win there as well. I think we need to really, really, really start looking at Ricochet as not Will Ospreay fodder, because I don't see them getting together for at least 2 or 3 more months minimum. Now, I could be wrong, and they could be fighting next week. No, they won't be fighting next week. But I could be wrong, and right after Grand Slam, we could have a Will Ospreay Ricochet segment. But I'm thinking really right now that they're pointing everything in the world towards Ricochet and either the Beast Mortos or Hologram. At least I think that's the direction it's going in. And if I could say, I would really hope that they would work it with the Beast Mortos right now, because Hologram can't afford a loss, and neither can Ricochet. But Beast can eat at least one L. And I think the two of them would put on a banger of a match as well. But that, it appears to be that that's where they're headed. So, I mean, as far as that much, let me clear out some of this stuff here. Give me just a second, because I got to get to a couple other spots. Give me just 1 second here. Bear with me. Just making sure I get to my cards so I don't look stupid here in about 5 minutes. There we are. Yeah, I'm where I need to be right now. I just wanted to get some of this other stuff out of the way, because I was going to cover it, but it's getting deeper into the show, and I don't want to keep everybody, because we still got college football going, and I don't want to interfere with your college football. My son's out there watching Georgia and Kentucky right now, and I think Georgia just went up by a little bit, 5 points, something like that, 13 to 9, something to that effect. And I don't want to get too deep into college football, because Lord knows we've been without football for so many weeks now. Everybody needs to get their fix in on that as well. But where was I? Ricochet. Okay, Ricochet and the Beast Mortos would probably be a better jump-off match than Ricochet and Hologram, because I don't think either one of them can deserve a loss right now. Ricochet is just coming in. Hologram is just too good. I don't think Hologram takes an L for at least 3 or 4 more months, especially after the match he put on tonight. Oh my God. Some of those moves that he was doing are not human. But other than that, to wrap Dynamite up with a nice little bow, Moxley was around all night long. Finally got to Darby Allin, finally got set up for the match, told Darby he wasn't ready, and that they should have a match actually started off with, he should give him the title match because he's not ready for the title match. And Darby, of course, was like, screw this. I want it. I earned it. You've got to earn it too. So he goes, okay, at Grand Slam, I'll fight you for the title match that you should have been having at Grand Slam. I understand the confusion, guys. I really do. I get it. But I'm going to break that part down before I get into the Rampage review, because I really think that was probably one of the most confusing segments that AEW's ever put out. Allen was set for a match with Danielson. Moxley said Danielson couldn't compete, so on and so forth. We get a match between Mox and Allen. And then all of a sudden, here comes Nigel McGuinness with, I'm going to wrestle Bryan Danielson. I want to try to unravel this just a little bit. If I understand correctly, one of the things that kept Nigel McGuinness out of professional wrestling, and I could be wrong about this. If I'm wrong, you can fact check me. But it was my understanding that Nigel McGuinness had contracted Hep C back in the day. And of course, wrestling requires blood and so on and so forth. So he retired because you can't bleed on somebody if you have hepatitis C because you give it to them. It's bloodborne, it's airborne, well, not airborne, but it's fluid. And so that's that. So my guess is maybe he cleared up now that we have medicine for it and he can go. Now, the main thing about it is they weren't sure if he would be able to go a month from now because, let's face it, we're still clinically trying things. But he's clear now, so it made sense to put the two of them together, but we had to come up with an explanation for why Allen wasn't going to be facing Danielson. Now, I realize that's not a fantastic explanation. And I realize it's not an intricate explanation, but my thoughts on it are we've got him clear. A lot of people want the match. Let's make the match happen. Danielson, McGuinness, in All In, was golden. Crowd favorite, way over. Hadn't been in the ring in a bazillion years and was over. So it would be foolish of Tony not to put the match together as soon as possible. And I do believe with certain scenarios like that right there, you should strike while the iron's hot because the iron might not be hot in 3 months. In other words, we don't know, so let's go ahead and do it now. Get it over with. I don't think McGuinness is going to retire Danielson any more than I believe Mox is going to beat Allen. I really don't. I think Allen goes over Mox. I know that sounds weird to say, but I don't think that McGuinness goes over Danielson. But if that could put a little bit of an explanation into an otherwise confusing segment in Dynamite, that was the only other segment I wanted to hit with Dynamite anyway, because that particular thing was so confusing it wasn't even funny. But then I got thinking about it. And with everything else that had been going on throughout the years, probably makes sense to get them in the ring sooner rather than later. And I don't think anybody wanted to take a shot on it, so they just went ahead and pulled the trigger. And that's how we came out with the match set the way we came out. Shout out to 14 viewers. Thanks for joining us. You're always welcome here. You're always welcome here. Even if you disagree with me, you can say what you want, do what you want. I don't care. As long as we're having a good time. That's all that seems to matter to me. But we're going to kick it off here with the Rampage review. We started off with the conglomeration because we've got to have Orange Cassidy on television at least 3 or 4 times a week versus the Dark Order, I'm sorry. It was a pretty good back and forth, so to speak. And I was glad to see the cohesiveness between the two. They worked really well together. There were a couple little technical spots there that probably could have used some work, but it's Dynamite, and you have to remember it's Collision. I will get the name right in a minute. It's Rampage, and most of our Rampage people have sat around for 2 hours that night while Dynamite went on. So, I mean, it's hard to stay warmed up and get over the cold without having to deal with everything else. So there's going to be some ring rust in there. There's always going to be. That's one of the main reasons I wish Dynamite would either become, or Rampage would become an extension of Dynamite, or yeah, an extension of Dynamite, and we just have 3 hours on Wednesday night, and then maybe, just maybe, move that to when we get the new show on Fox, have the show on Fox on Friday night, and then have Collision on Saturday night. I do believe it would make an awful lot more sense to have that, because you could bring the wrestlers in, you could involve them in certain segments during Dynamite, you could keep them stretched, you could keep them warmed up, you could do that, and then just go straight into the Rampage segment afterwards and run that hour of Rampage right there and just get it done and over with. And that way, I don't know, it would probably take a show away from me to review, but at the same time, it would probably be better for all involved, because the technical glitches in this match right here were probably from sitting around and waiting to be used, more or less than anything else. But as we all know, as is the way, the conglomeration picks up the win, and we move on to what I consider to be the match of the night. Camille Brickhouse versus Robin Renegade. Cheat code, cheat code, cheat code. On behalf of Camille Brickhouse, this was Camille's actual Rampage debut, which she's already debuted on Dynamite. Did quite well with Tracy Myers' people up there from AML and wherever the other one was. I wasn't 100% sure. I did know that Tracy Myers had a talent in there. They made her look really well, but she went to work with Robin Renegade, and they did some business. They did some business in that ring. It wasn't a complete squash because it didn't need to be. Robin Renegade showed up, showed off, and showed out her ability and made Camille Brickhouse look like $1 billion. Camille handled her part of it. Definitely strong, definitely the future of AEW in their women's division. And I put a post out immediately after that match because I truly believe that Camille Brickhouse versus whoever the AEW Women's Champion is going to be a month, 2 months from now, is going to bang hard, feed families, and it's going to be generational. I'm putting all that on her back because she is the future of AEW Women's Wrestling. I'm calling it right now, today, right now on this show. And so far, I've been pretty good with my predictions. So this is a prediction that will also hold up. Camille has the package. She has the muscle. She has the movement. She has the mesmerize. And she's got the look. Carries herself upright at all times. No slouch. Got that 1,000-yard stare that can cut a hole in platinum. And she put on a hellacious match. It doesn't hurt that Robin Renegade knows how to go too. The Renegade twins are by far and away more than ready. Once we get the AEW Women's Tag Team division up and running, once we get those titles up and running, I fully expect the Renegade twins to be right in the middle of it. But neither I will learn to talk tonight. I had a whole thing set up. My stream crashed twice. I'm sorry, but here I am. Shout out to the 15 we've got. I appreciate y'all. Like, comment, share. Let's get some more viewers in here. I'd like to see this thing fill up pretty doggone quick, although I don't know that it will. I can play just as well for 100 as I can for 15. So I'm perfectly fine with that. Play even better. You know, hey, the more the merrier. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Let's get them in here. But to make a long story short, Camille Brickhouse made reasonably short work out of Robin Renegade, picked up the pin. The thing that made this match stand out so well is it was whole, balanced. It moved a story ahead. You know now that she is the badass that everybody thinks she is. You know that she's the standard everybody thought she was. And shout out to Robin Renegade for playing her part in that one. Now, see, a lot of people call out all this other stuff. I see the work on both sides. That, and I'm a Renegade Twins fan as well. It's one of those things where I didn't really want to see it, but I knew it needed to happen to get Camille over in that segment and that audience. But yeah, picked up the pin, no problem there. Undisputed Kingdoms, Roderick Strong went up against my man Beef. Y'all, there's a little backstory about this. The main reason I'm a fan, this guy here, the Beef character, hits me up in DMs one day and says, how do you do this, that, and the other? And you know what? First off, for anybody in that position to reach out to somebody, that takes a lot of guts. So that automatically caught a lot of respect out of me. So I'm like, well, you know, this is what I do. And I gave him some ideas. You know, I didn't like say, do it like this, do it like that, do it like the other. But I gave him some ideas. I said, let's work on it. Let's see what happens. Let's see if we can get you up and going. Now, what I did worked for me. It didn't necessarily work for him, but we're still really good friends. So when I say my man Beef, it's because he and I actually have conversations in DMs. And number one, I'm thoroughly proud of him for getting off the indies and getting into Ring of Honor. And number two, I'm thoroughly proud of him for doing 2 nights of television, because he showed up again on Collision. But Roderick Strong versus Beef. Beef got a chance to get out there and show his moveset. I didn't expect him to beat Roddy because Roddy's in title pictures all over the damn place. And losing to somebody that most of the audience probably doesn't know would have derailed that. But if somebody would be willing to do good business with him, and I know there's a lot of people that have a problem with the name and the meat chance and the beef chance. You know what? Let fans be fans. We spend all our time telling WWE fans to stay on their side of it, especially the drones. We spend a lot of our time telling drones to stay on their side of the fence and just let us enjoy. I'm saying the same thing within our little fence. If you don't like meat chance, if you don't like beef chance, you don't like all that stuff, that's fine. Don't like it, don't do them. Some people like it. And the beauty of AEW is we got all the fans. We got all kinds of blends. We got people that like Lucha Libre. We got people that like strong style. We like people that like British strong style. We got people that like catch as catch can. We got people who like segments. We got people who like the flippy shit. We got people who like Smash Mouth. We got people who like all kinds of stuff. And they put up with the stuff they don't like, so I'm putting up with the stuff that a lot of other people might not like. Me, on the other hand, I don't think I'd be sitting there screaming meat, 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 or beef, beef, beef. But I wouldn't get mad at somebody else for having a good time. And yeah, I mean, I understand where we're coming from on that standpoint, but still. Really? Telling fans to just enjoy wrestling and then telling them in the same breath, oh, you can enjoy wrestling, just don't do that meat chant. You know, that's a non-starter for me. It's a non-sequitur. But yeah, Roddy Strong and Beef went at it. And I'm going to tell you what, Roderick Strong, shout out to Roderick Strong for doing good business. He gave Beef a solid, 5, 7, 8 minutes to show off what was in his repertoire actually had people cheering for him, actually picked up a chant, actually did all that stuff. Shout out to Roddy, because that could have easily been a squash. Beef is not anybody knows unless you know. If you know, you know, but if you don't know, you really don't know, because a lot of people aren't going to peek behind the Ring of Honor paywall to watch all the Ring of Honor wrestlers. Not saying you shouldn't, because you should, but not everybody's going to peek behind that wall. So shout out to Roddy for doing some really, really good business in this match, giving Beef a time to highlight his skill set, highlight his show set. I almost felt like it was a tryout for the main roster. Same with the other kid coming behind him here tonight. I thought it was a good tryout. Beef did really well. He had some good smash moves. Of course, he's enjoying the moment too much. So if I were his manager, I'd be like, get your ass back in the ring. We ain't done yet. He enjoyed the moment a little too much. But, if it's your first time on national television, I get it. I get it. But Roddy picks up the win, and, shout out to Beef for doing good business too. Because I know good and well he could have flopped in any one way, shape, or form and crushed Roddy. Beef's a big dude. All right. He's a big dude. He's a chunky dude. It is what it is. He could have put him on his back, put him out. He chose not to, which I thought was absolutely phenomenal. He didn't have to do it that way, but he did. So, but yeah, Roderick Strong picked up the win over Beef. And, yeah, that was that. Then we had the Outcasts, Saraya and Harley Cameron versus Hex, Marty Bell and Allison Kay. Now, this match was a little bit more, not necessarily for the sickos, but necessarily for the people who actually enjoy good old-fashioned comedic wrestling. And not comedic from a sense of their jokes, but it's the way that they move in the ring, the communication, the style. I look forward to this segment in Rampage, not for the looks, but because, in all honesty, this is the most over, the funniest, the meanest, the everythingest women's combination in all of AEW. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say in all of professional wrestling right now. I'm still waiting for the backstage segment after the match. There's got to be one. I just haven't found it yet. Usually there's a backstage segment after silly stuff like that. But yeah, Saraya and Harley Cameron picked up the win, and then Jamie Hayter comes down, and Saraya plays it up really, really well, leaves Harley Cameron in the ring by herself. She gets clocked again. So I guess she gets to be the protector. Yeah, that. From last week. Yeah, that. But yeah, the Outcasts pick up the win. It was just pretty doggone cool. As usual, they don't mix words or anything like that. I was pretty impressed with the match. Harley Cameron I've seen 10 Harley Cameron matches now, and every single match that I see her in, she's constantly improving. Things that weren't that good this particular week will be better the next week. And that makes for some damn good wrestling, guys. I hate to say it, but it really does. It makes for some damn good wrestling, and it makes for some damn good storytelling. Harley Cameron is definitely on the way to being a main eventer. She'll probably be a main eventer in probably a year and a half. But she's definitely going to be a mid-card solid by February, just in time for the Australia pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. Hint, hint, wink, wink. That's typically how it goes. But yeah, they picked up the win. And for our Main event of the night at Rampage, we had Takeshita versus Action Andretti, and I don't know another way to say it except Takeshita is a beast. I'm glad to see that Tony Khan has started pushing him. This match was legit back and forth, and it also gave us an ability, or gave us a peek into a burgeoning storyline with Top Flight following that ties into tonight's show. I don't understand. I do understand, but before the G1 tournament, I don't understand why Takeshita was not deeper into the title picture so they wouldn't have to go through all of this stuff to get him there. Therein lies the quandary with the G1. I don't mind it when people go away for the G1, and I get it. And people are like, I don't understand why Takeshita wouldn't get in the push, because you don't know what's going to happen in 28 days. If you push him as a title holder, he goes to G1, breaks his leg, dislocates his shoulder, out 6 months. What are you going to do then? Now he's back. What I would have really liked to have seen is not to have to do all of this groundwork, all of this footwork to get back into a title picture, because Takeshita been, in my estimation, first off, thank you for sticking around to do the Rampage show, especially a talent at that level. Thank you for sticking around and doing the Rampage show to begin with. But, I mean, it was unnecessary to have to do all of this build to get him where he should have already been. It was a reasonable back and forth. I say reasonable. It could have easily have been a squash match as well. Takeshita did some good business with him, let him get his move set in. For people who, if you don't know who he is on the Rampage audience, you probably are not paying attention to the show. Top Flight is pretty much a regular on Rampage, but Action Andretti out in the singles push, and it played out. Takeshita did pick up the pin in convincing fashion with, I wrote it down here, yeah, Blue Thunder Bomb. What, his version of the Blue Thunder Bomb. But we got a good storyline development out of it tonight, because obviously, you know, Leo and all them are walking around, and man, Action Andretti was all about action. He was like, why are we doing this? And why we should be going after we should be doing it. And he's right. After you've been on Rampage like 600 times, now it's time to move on up to the main idea, you know, the main show. And that's where they should be. And frankly, I think I would like to see at least one match, Top Flight House of Black, just to see how it would go together. But he's got a point. This is what we should be doing. So we got a good storyline out of the whole thing. But yeah, Takeshita picked up the pin with his version of the Blue Thunder Bomb, and it was beautiful. It was convincing. It was everything. And that shut the show down so that we move into AEW Collision. And I don't know quite how to say this, but whatever they're doing with the Jack Perry entrances, keep doing that. Part of me thinks that they're mocking WWE with their entrance videos at the beginning of the show and all this other stuff. Part of me thinks that's mocking them, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was the intent. But with Jack Perry rolling up to the building at the time of the match, hopping out, title on, walks right out to the ring, does his business, jumps back in the bus, and keeps on getting it. That is how it's done. If you're going to do one of these stupid ass entrance segments every week, at least make it make sense. Have it have something go with your show. I mean, there's only so many ways you can film somebody walking in a building. But the way they're doing it with Jack Perry right now is pretty damn cool, if you ask me. Now, a few others, no, they're not. no. Especially the Chris Jericho one, where like it was so bad you could see the cue cards. No, I'm good with that. Totally good with that. But the way they're doing Jack Perry when he comes in the ring now is just pulling up to the building, hopping out of the bus. Bus is still running. The bus is still running. Like, I'm only going to be a few minutes, guys. See you in a few. Hops out the bus, comes down to the ramp, comes to the ring, pops the jacket, hands the title. Him and Christopher Daniels was a minor, like a mini cheat code, so to speak, because Chris Daniels can still go. Christopher Daniels can still go. And I was amazed at how well he could go. And I don't know where he busted his head at because that didn't look like a blade to me. So I think he legit busted his head on something. But either way, Jack Perry picked up the win over Christopher Daniels, then immediately proceeded to leave the ring, do a 5-second promo of they don't want to hear me because they don't want to hear the truth. Gets back in the bus, tears the hell out of town, on to the next episode, probably heading wherever Dynamite's at next week. That is starting to be a segment that grows on me because it is done so well. It's almost like, and somebody put a comment up behind that that says, "Yeah, you don't get paid by the hour." That's really the concept that I get. When he hops out that truck, marches on down the ramp, does his business, goes back up the ramp, in the bus, gone. Doesn't get paid by the hour. He almost looked like a handyman. For a fact. Almost looked like a handyman for a fact. Hey, shout out to 17 viewers. Thank you. Then we got into another trios match tonight with Mark Briscoe, Hologram, and Kyle O'Reilly versus the Premier Athletes and the Beast Mortos. And I was looking at Twitter when this popped out, like, what's this? What's that? Where's the story and everything else? There is no story. Okay? There is a story, but there's not a story. What they're doing right now is they're giving you a glimpse of what the feud is going to look like. The feud is going to be Hologram Beast Mortos. And they touched on it a little bit at the end of the match. They started giving you a sneak peek. But if you've noticed for the last couple of weeks, we've been seeing these guys getting closer and closer and closer together. Basically, the Premier Athletes, Mark Briscoe and Kyle O'Reilly's Auto Parts, are just characters. The match is Hologram and Beast Mortos. Now, for some people who may or may not be confused by this, this is a very old trick that wrestling used to use when they wanted to get two people close together, but they didn't want them exposed just yet. Tag team matches, and in AEW's case, trios matches. It gives you the ability to protect the people that you want to fight. You want them to have the feud. It protects the feud, but it introduces the feud. Because back then, like I said, when we didn't do house shows and everything else, you had to work out angles on the fly. So what they're doing right now simply is working out this angle on the fly, and they're introducing Beast Mortos and a Hologram as an actual feud. So with all the back and forth and Hologram just being Hologram, there are 3 or 4 moves that happened in that ring tonight that, and one of them he even slowed down enough to show you how he did it. The one that ended up in the Canadian Destroyer. He even worked slow enough to show you how he was doing it. And we still can't figure out how he did it. Hologram defies gravity. Hologram defies logic. Hologram defies reason. But what Hologram is a made star by Tony Khan. So yeah, they got at it, and they got at it, and of course the conglomeration with Hologram did pick up the pin. It was a solid match. It was a solid match all the way across the board. I didn't even see anything that remotely looked like a botch in this match. I could be wrong, but there were things I thought were botches, but they weren't botches. It's just the way he moved. He moves so fast that it's hard to keep up with. In fact, I would almost be seated tomorrow for a hologram Will Ospreay match. I think hologram could keep up with Will Ospreay easily. But the conglomeration picked up the pin, and Beast Mortos had some extracurricular activity at the end of the match. Was rescued at the end. Hologram was rescued at the end. And it looks like that we may wind up having that feud that we were wanting to have. Personally, if we get Hologram Beast Mortos starting next week, I will be seated. We will be feasting. I think it's going to be a good segment. I think the Beast Mortos can afford a couple of L's in this because he's been banging through the W's. I know they're not going to have Hologram lose this early. I wouldn't look for the loss this early. If it happens, then that's going to be a fire feud. Shout out to the 18. Thank you. The next match is one that I'm going to spend some time on tonight. I'm going to spend some time on the rest of these. Not that the rest of the matches weren't that good. It was just a really chill show, except for this one segment. And I'm starting to believe that Tony Khan books in a way and manner that we're not sure until we get there. And when you're going through it, you're like, wow, this is a really chill show. This is nothing like Dynamite was. This is not Rampage was. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, like a southpaw uppercut that you weren't even looking for, Wheeler Yuta and Anthony Henry. Now, once again, as I was talking earlier about in my Rampage review, Beef and Henry are working together right now. So Beef was obviously at the ringside here. I have a lot of appreciation for this match. Wheeler started off slow. He started off stagnant. Not going to lie. Looked like he was getting ready to phone it in. But he's got that depression angle working. They were working that depression angle all the way down to the ring. So he gets in this match, and it's kind of a blah match. Then all of a sudden, Anthony Henry says something about Bryan Danielson. And the Festus effect kicked in. Now, for those of you who may not know what I'm talking about, before he was in the Goodfellas or the Good Brothers and all that other stuff, Carl Anderson played a character named Festus who walked out to the ring dumb as a fucking brick. And as soon as the bell rung, this dude went ballistic for however long it took to get the match over with. And as soon as the bell rang again, he went back to this dumb fuck. Wow, 23. We're starting to fill up here. Thank you. Like, comment, share. Let's see if we can get up to 25 before the end of the show, because we are probably about a half hour out from being done. Just giving you a heads up. So I wanted to spend some time on this match because in the middle of, and I'm going to start looking at it this way. When I start seeing a Tony Khan show that looks this chill again, I'm going to be looking for the match that he's building the show around, that he doesn't want you to be so overwhelmed that when you get to the match, you miss the point. Sorry, guys. I'm trying really hard not to sneeze. I had no expectations of this match 3 minutes in. I'm like, this is going to be phoned in. We're doing the depression angle. But as soon as he mentions Bryan Danielson, Wheeler Yuta goes bat shit Festus crazy. And we got a glimpse of Wheeler Yuta that, if anybody else has ever seen this look from Wheeler Yuta, by all means, drop me a chat or something. Tell me the last time that Wheeler Yuta went this crazy in the ring and did what he did. Obviously, Wheeler Yuta picks up the pin. But I mean, he cleaned house. So, with that said, going forward, when I see a chill lineup like this again, I'm going to be looking for the man in the middle. Because literally, this match was in the middle of the show. After he's going to have everybody that's going to be there to watch. By the time you get to the middle of the show, your demographic is seated and watching. And shout out to Anthony Henry for doing good business in this match, because he was obviously looking like the fan favorite and the perennial favorite to win the match until he did something stupid, which I guess was the trigger. I guess, you could see it coming. But nobody, I will guarantee you, nobody saw that version of Wheeler Yuta coming out. So Blackpool Combat Club, I think it puts everybody on notice in the Blackpool that Wheeler Yuta is not only a force to be reckoned with, this dude is batshit crazy. And he's dangerous. So without a doubt, it went from being a phoned-in match to a squash just like that. Literally. Just like that. Wheeler Yuta in a big-ass squash match win. Juice Robinson and the Guns put on a Bang Bang Gang match. It was very good. Cage of Agony and Brian Cage. Gates of Agony, I'm sorry. Gates of Agony, Brian Cage. Gates of Agony is the most... I understand that they lost the trios match to the Bang Bang Gang, but I want to take a couple of minutes and break this down like a fraction, as my buddy Mr. Starks would say. If Gates of Agony are not in the tag team title picture within 2 or 3 months, I'm going to declare this a fumble. WWE is running the Bloodline 2.0 Temu version right now. And the Guerrillas of Destiny are nothing like Gates of Agony. Nothing. They're not built like it. They don't move like it. They are too spastic for their own good. Gates of Agony makes you feel like they're going to kill somebody. Every time, they've got that intensity. They bring that energy to the ring every single time, Tony. I have yet to see a Gates of Agony match phoned in. And I've watched a lot of them since before Double or Nothing. I have yet to see the Gates of Agony phone anything in. And shout out to 27. Thank you. This actually turned out to be a pretty damn good stream. Thank you all. Thank you. Like, comment, share. I'm not even asking for donations. Don't care about donations. I'm working towards getting monetized, and I'm doing this for fun. So I'm not even looking for donations. This is just an outlet, a creative outlet for me, and it's. I appreciate people who show up and watch the show, and it does give me a lot more incentive to make the show better, to make the layout better, to try and get everything in there that everybody wants. So if you want to, you can send me a DM and say, I'd like for you to cover this. I'd like for you to cover that. I'd like for you to cover. I don't care. Send me DMs, send me comments, do whatever you want. I'm in the market right now because I'm not covering WWE, and that's 5 hours minimum of wrestling, 7 hours really of wrestling that I need to allocate back to something else. So if you've got ideas of things you want to see besides the flower shop and everything else I do, drop a comment, drop a DM. I don't care. But back to what I was talking about here. If we don't have the Gates of Agony in a title match within the next 2 or 3 months, I'm going to consider that a fumble. Gates of Agony should have already been in the title picture. I realize the title picture is getting a little bit clustered, and I get it. They should still be there. But yeah, I mean, the Bang Bang Gang picks up the win in this. It was a pretty hard hitting match. Brian Cage deserves a singles push. Gates of Agony deserve a tag team push. Not saying that the Bang Bang Gang doesn't either, but it's getting kind of hard to put trios matches together when we know good and well the end goal is to get them back in front of the patriarchy. And now I will say there was a missed opportunity tonight because we did not have a patriarchy run in. We didn't have anything going on with the patriarchy. I felt like the patriarchy should have been there. I felt like we should have had a segment, some interference. I kind of felt like that because that's the ultimate goal. And it's not really building that fast. And this is something that needs to be a quick burn. It really does. Patriarchy needs to get the belts off. We need to get them back to the Bang Bang Gang. We need to get everybody back in their collective feuds. Because the Bang Bang Gang are trio specialists, the patriarchy obviously not. And it's starting to get stupid. So get it back together. Get the belts where they belong. We had Yuka Sakazaki, and I worked on that name all day long. You should be proud of me. I should get an applause for getting it right. I'm not going to try it again because I'm going to blow it for sure. Versus Serena Deeb in an exhibition match. Because there wasn't really anything involved with it except for some side venture that I'm now seeing between her and Queen Aminata. I'm not really feeling that feud, guys. Queen Aminata does not belong in a feud with Serena Deeb. Queen Aminata deserves to be in a feud. It should have been Queen Aminata versus Yuka Sakazaki. I got it right twice. Okay, I'm not pushing my luck. 2 times is good. Hey. So if you ask me, this match was probably not needed to reintroduce Yuka Sakazaki. But nevertheless, she picks up the pin over it. And with Mariah May sitting up there in commentary, it was so bad that my son actually thought a child was wrestling in the ring, so to speak. But I digress. I don't think that segment was needed. I think if they're pushing towards Sakazaki and Queen Aminata, or if they're pushing towards Queen Aminata and Serena Deeb, just go ahead and put the match together, get it done, get it burnt out, get it moving on. I don't think a lot of people are feeling that. I wasn't feeling the pop in the arena for that. I wasn't exactly seeing the hype and the overhype that a lot of my AEW friends do when we know it's a soft match, but it's like they overhype it, and I wasn't even seeing that. I don't see a lot of interest in this feud. I mean, there's probably some history that I am unaware of because there's a lot of history between a lot of these wrestlers that I am unaware of, and I may need to do some research on it. But I don't see anybody asking for this feud. But yes, Serena Deeb gets beat by Yuka Sakazaki, and then of course on the way back to the back, she's cutting a promo. Queen Aminata walks by there and says, "Oh, so that's how it's done," which obviously did not sit very well with Serena Deeb. And we found out a little bit later, Queen Aminata goes down to face Robin Renegade. Night 2, by the way, night 2. Because, night 1, she got Camille Brickhouse. Tonight, she got Queen Aminata. I hope this means that we're going to see the Renegade Twins as regulars on AEW programming. I, for one, would be very happy. I, for one, would be very stoked about that. Now, let me back up here for a second, because it sounds like I'm glazing over Serena Deeb, and I'm not. Serena Deeb is, and I said Selena, I know. Serena Deeb is a goat. A goat. Not the goat, but a goat in women's wrestling. I just don't think that, I don't want to see her get Jericho'd. So, no, I don't want to see a Queen Aminata Serena Deeb feud unless there is some particular reason for it, because the master student angle gets overplayed all the fucking time. And I don't think it does anything for Aminata, and it only hurts Deeb. So I'm not going to pretend like I'm all yay for this, because I'm not. I don't see a win here. Now, if I'm wrong, by all means, drop a comment. Shoot me a DM. Hell, I don't care. I don't see the win in this. I don't. And I don't think I'm going to see the win in it. So that's just me. If you want to see it, by all means, it's for you, because it ain't for me. But Queen Aminata gets down to the ring, and I wouldn't say she made short work of Robin Renegade, because Robin made her earn it. Once again, Robin showing up, showing out, and doing what the Renegade Twins do all the time, all day, every day, on that screen, on that mic, in the back, everywhere. They are consummate professional wrestlers, and it showed. Even though Queen Aminata picked up the pin on this, I'm pretty sure that Robin Renegade is not very far away from catching a pin of her own. I'm really 100% sure that that is coming. But it was a pretty good match. Serena Deeb gets out there and hits her from behind, hits Queen Aminata from behind, bangs her knee on the mat a couple of times, and puts her in a half Boston Crab, and we go to break. Come back, and FTR and the Grizzled Young Veterans are our main event tonight. I will say this is the first time I've seen the Grizzled Young Veterans in the ring, because, like I said, I've just been watching WWE and a little bit of AEW programming. The AEW programming that I cover, which would be Rampage and Collision. And I watch Dynamite just to watch it. I don't watch it for any other reason than to just enjoy wrestling. So I have not seen the Grizzled Young Veterans, and I am 1,000% impressed. That's the best way I could say it, because FTR is no joke. They're not slack. They're not any of that. FTR brought it to the ring. Grizzled Young Veterans handed it right back to them. It was beautiful. I loved it. Need more of it. Now, I don't think we need to run this match every week like they're doing Andrade and Mello. Thank God that is over with at 5. I hope both the guys are okay from that botch. That's another reason I didn't even mention it, because that one pissed me off. Because Andrade's having to work way too hard for half the respect. That's neither here nor there. That's just an aside. FTR makes everybody look good, but Grizzled Young Veterans made FTR look good. It was almost like they were having a fight between themselves over who could put the other one over better. And I got to say, when I see matches like that, you know you're going to get a special finish. FTR gets the win. Grizzled Young Vets do the run-in, try to beat him down. And we get what I am glad to be Tony's favorites now. The Outrunners come in for the save. The Outrunners come in for the save. More Outrunners. That's, I don't know what it is about them. They're starting to grow on me. Yeah, they're old school. Yeah, I hear all this stuff. I know they were wrestling when I was watching wrestling. I got it. They're old, like me. Starting to definitely, they're starting to definitely grow on me. But yeah, I mean, the Outrunners run in, make the save. Everybody's happy. FTR, we do a pose down, and we're at the end of the show. So, with that said, my investment ratings for Dynamite, I'm giving Dynamite a solid 9. I didn't cover it very in detail because there wasn't really much that you haven't already heard 10,000 times. I'm going with a 6 for Rampage because it was a really balanced show. It was really good. Like I said, they got the Orange Cassidy thing done over and out of the way. Collision, I'm sitting on a 5. Actually, I'm pretty close to a 7 for Collision because of the Willer Yuta segment. If they had had less of Jericho, and I mean, you had to like import video of Jericho and Orange Cassidy, then have this bummed out segment with Orange Cassidy there, I could have done without it. I didn't even cover it. I escaped it. I went right by it. Had that not been there, it probably would have been a solid 8 for me just because of the Willer Yuta breakout moments. Because I am learning as I go along the way Tony Khan books. And without a doubt, that going batshit crazy segment right there saved the whole show. Because at that point in time, it was really looking phoned in. And I was trying to figure out what in the hell's going on. Dynamite's off the chain. Rampage is off the chain. This is really laid back. And then Willer Yuta shows up and shows me why. So shout out to him. I'm really glad. Shout out to 29 viewers. Y'all make this worth it. You really do. You make it worth it. And I really appreciate everything. So we're going to be wrapping the show up now here in just a couple of minutes. At the end of the day, I want to spin the block on the way I opened the show. For those of y'all who weren't here when I opened the show, I gave a certain person who shall remain nameless from the state of New York an opportunity to apologize for an absolute off the reservation racist rant while he was gaming. Decovalent TV broke it. I shared it. I ran with it. And the gentleman was simply there last night to grift his anti-AEW rant. And I quietly drop under there in the comments and say, hey, man, are we going to get an apology for that racist rant? He says, you want an apology? Fuck you. That's the apology. Okay. Fuck me. That's the apology. I got you. Life is short. We only have so many days on this earth. And if that level of hate is what you choose to consume with your days on this earth, that's on you, dog. However it works out, however it plays out, you're always going to have your fans. They're always going to overlook stuff, and you're always going to be you. I choose to embrace this notion that inside these four walls, what I say goes. Outside these four walls, I have to exist in a society with everybody else. And guess what, douchebag? You do too. I hope your life is as uncomfortable and as miserable over the next couple of weeks as it possibly can be. Because what you said, number one, I can't repeat it. And I wouldn't repeat it if I could. Number two, totally uncalled for. And number three, I am not that popular yet, and I know that. But there are still people watching me at all times. I see it. I'm popular enough, but I'm not as popular as you. I'm not as popular as Bully. I'm not as popular as any of the other guys. And I get it, and I don't really care if I am or not. I'll get there. If I want to be there, I'll be there. If I don't want to be there, I won't be there. But if I am there someday, understand this. I know that for everybody, for every one person clapping for me, there are three people hoping I fall out of the way so they can sneak in. It would make sense to me that if I were in your shoes, I would issue a formal apology and mean it, and then probably take a couple of months outside of all of this that we do. Because for those of y'all who don't do this and just tune in, that's perfectly fine. Love y'all to death. Thank you very much. Out of all the jobs that I have ever held, and I've held some pretty high end jobs, this is the hardest job I've ever done with no reward. Being a creator is not the easiest job in the world. It's easy to get burnt out. It's easy to get in that headspace if you want to be. And I'm not making excuses for JD. JD's a fucking douchebag. But if that's the way you choose to meet your opportunities, I hope the internet rewards you generously for that and for a very long time to come. Because listen here, you ain't Hulk Hogan. You can't say what you said, take a few months off, and everybody will automatically forgive you. You are not that guy. And since you chose not to get ahead of it, since you chose to be an asshole when somebody gave you a shot, die on your sword, homie. Go ahead, go out there, commit suicide. And I'm going to tell you what, to the gentleman that works with him, you dumb. Because you know what you're dealing with and you choose to do it anyway. That's dumb. That being said, and I realize this is sort of an ironic twist and a segment change here, but the one thing that I would like to do is use this opportunity to show you that it is so much easier to be nice to people, even people you don't like. It's easier to be nice to people. It takes a lot of work to have this level of hate, guys. It's a lot less work to be nice. That's why I brought that out at the end of it. That's why I'm closing out with that. And plus, a lot of you were not here when I opened the show up with it, you know, saying that this is what's going on and so on and so forth. JD from New York went on a racist rant. If you've got a question about it, you can go to @TheCovalentTV, or you can go to my page. I also shared the video. It's probably deep down there again. I probably need to reshare it again to get it back up to the top of the system. But he literally went off on just about every possible ethnicity in the world. He was smart enough not to go off on black people. But he went off on everybody else. And he used every possible racial slur you could use. Unchecked, unfiltered, whole 9 yards. Called him out on it. He told me, fuck me. That was my answer. Fuck you. So my answer back to you, fuck you. It's a whole lot easier to be nice to people than it is to have that kind of energy. That energy takes work because it's unnatural. That kind of energy right there is so unnatural, it takes work to get to. So if you're that type of person, I don't care whether you follow me or don't follow me. And hell, JD, I don't care if you block me because you can't block everything. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But with that said, I go out and I choose to care and I choose not to humiliate and I choose to treat people the way I actually want to be treated. Because that's the way we do it here on the Sicko Show here live on Graps TV. I've been your host, the Matty Man. Guys, like, comment, share. Thank you. 29 is off the charts, way more than I expected tonight, but thank you very much. And we'll see you next week. I'll be happy to, I'll throw up some announcements to let you know when I'm going live. Probably going to go live on Thursday, possibly Friday, and possibly Saturday like I did this week. So keep your eyes out, ears open, and your ear to the ground because you'll hear me coming. A fat boy like me, you can't miss it. But anyway, thank you for joining us on Graps TV and the Sicko Show. This has been a blast. I have been your host, Matty Man. And I would just like to say, good night, America, wherever you are. Peace.